Welcome to the Darren Well Podcast with Rita Mercer.
But if anyone listening feels that they have burnt out, then please seek medical assistance. So for everybody else, if you don't want to get there to that point, then you have to then think of yourself as a business athlete. You have to think of the way the mind and the body being connected, and you have to honor the thing that is you, the animal, the human being that is you. And you have to do that balance.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Darren Well Podcast. My guest today, he is Colin Corby. He is a technologist, he's an endurance athlete, and he's a TEDx speaker. He's a leadership and well-being coach. He's a digital detox and a mindset coach, and he's the creator of the Digital Detox Coach. Colin Corby from England, he's also sharing today about overcoming burnout and living in harmony with technology. So again, thank you so much for joining the Darren Well Podcast, Colin. So glad to have you today. So welcome.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Awesome. Before we get into our talk today about balancing technology with our everyday lives, can you please share a little bit more about what inspired you to go down this path of technology and digital detox? Share what inspired you, and then kind of let's lean into this Ironman athlete. I'm like, what is that?
So first of all, I've had a long career in technology. I love technology. I love where it's going. And I had a great technology job in London. I worked with great people, and I was working on a lot of technology firsts. So it's really exciting time. But I was working long hours, and I was so focused on my work that I neglected my own health. When you're younger, you think you're invincible. But unfortunately, at work, I started to suffer stress, but that wasn't talked about in those days. And my heart rate started to increase to the point where I started to see stars and pass out a few times, which is obviously quite serious. So I had all the tests, nothing found. So I thought, what is it I can do? And I decided that I could get myself fit again, because the heart is all about fitness. So I remember being a good swimmer when I was very young. So I went to the local swimming pool and I swam a few lengths of the swimming pool, and I was wrecked. I was in terrible condition. I wasn't overweight. I just wasn't fit. So I had to work in technology. I had a mortgage. I had a young family. So I had to do something. So for me, that was a tipping point. So I carried on with swimming. I got fitter. My resilience to stress improved. I exercised my heart, basically. Then I took lessons to learn all the swimming strokes. And then I started racing. And what I found was, if you race off the blocks to the gun, then that's more stress than you're ever likely to get at work. So I was fascinated, but I came to the realization that obviously the mind and the body are connected. Now, why I should ever have forgotten that, I don't know. It's fairly obvious. So I was thinking, well, this is interesting. And then I joined a triathlon club, and they promised me I didn't have to do the cycling or the running. But they lied. And so I then did some triathlon. And as I was training for triathlon, because as a swimmer, the swim has to be quite long to be interesting. So I started to do what used to be called the Olympic distance one. And then I did an Ironman triathlon. And in the process of training, I was just fascinated by how the way we think and that mindset of an athlete can make all the difference in the way that we live, the way that we work. So I had achieved that balance. And then, along with everybody else, around about 2010 to 2015, I started to spend too much time on my laptops and my smartphones. And I started to struggle with finding the time to exercise, which was the very thing that kept everything in balance. And I thought, hey, this is fascinating. I wonder why this is happening. So lots and lots of research, behavioral psychology, with the experience of mindset that I had from being an endurance athlete. And I thought, well, that's fascinating, how we're affected. So in 2018, I created the Digital Detox Coach because I thought, well, if I can fall into the trap of spending too long on my digital devices, when I've had a tipping point when I know that I should keep things in balance, then lots of other professional people, particularly, will fall into the same trap. So I had a chance of leaving the corporate world, leaving technology, and I decided, well, what do I love? I love technology. I love the mindset of being an athlete and how that opens up the world for you. And I love this idea about how do we balance our life with technology, because we have to live with technology, with being humans and being connected to other humans. So that's really how I got into digital detox.
Wow. So the stress of work, because we all have to work, and the stress of like what it was putting on your body and your mind, that became the tipping point for you. And using that as
Yeah.
not just like I think sometimes we can use it as an escapism in an unhealthy way. Like we train one bad habit for another bad habit, but using it as a way to really get mentally strong and physically strong and to have balance is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yes. And the thing is, because I had that tipping point,
Mm.
I had to do exercise to keep that balance. Then being able to do exercise, being able to swim, being able to do triathlon became an embedded part of who I was. And so once something is part of who you really are and who you see yourself as, then it's a much stronger position to then look at everything else.
Wow, that's powerful, Colin. Yeah, because it does shift who you really are. Wow, wow, who you become in the process. Absolutely. So as I'm thinking about those people being me, those people being also the high achievers with work, with their families, how do you encourage them to break these unhealthy habits where they feel so connected, so obligated to the work and checking their socials, checking their email that they can't detox? Like why how do they know that they're at that tipping point? And then also how can they change that into a healthier habit?
So the first thing is, when I started the Digital Detox Coach in 2018, I started with the message of that we should look after ourselves, we should take care of ourselves. But the problem with that message is that it feels like, we should exercise more, we should eat better food, we should walk in the countryside and all of those great things. And we all know that we should be doing those things, but somehow a lot of us don't get around to it. And I thought, well, okay, how can I change the message? And then I sort of thought, well, okay, what do athletes do? Now, we have some amazing athletes in all the different sports, the Olympic sports, wonderful male, female athletes. Well, they have to get a good night's sleep. They have to have good nutrition. They can't train all the time. They stress the body in a controlled way. They grow in terms of what they're able to do. Everything takes a long time. They need coaches and people around them. So they have all the attributes to be able to perform at their best. So I switched the message when I do workshops with organizations. And I say, well, okay, when you turn up for work each day, do you think about, okay, I'm just going to go to work and I'm just going to be okay. I'm just going to do an average job. Or, I'm just going to turn up. Or do you think, hey, it's another day. I've got an opportunity to really do a good job, to excel in whatever profession that I'm doing, to network with some great people, to solve some problems. And most people go to work to really make a contribution, to actually grow as individuals, to satisfy their professional need to do a good job, to learn new things. So I use this idea of a business athlete. I said, well, if you want to be a business athlete, then you have to think like an athlete. So if you've got a great presentation, if you've got a really important presentation or talk or problem to solve, then you do what an athlete does. You make sure you get a good night's sleep the night before. You make sure that you've got enough nutrition. You make sure that you've prepared properly and you've trained to be able to do that thing. And where digital detox comes in, and I use a slightly different definition. Most people think a digital detox is, weekend or week in nature as one-off events. But actually, my definition of digital detox is regular periods of coming offline. So to protect your sleep, you don't go online an hour before you go to bed, for example. When you wake up in the morning and you're really at your best and you're going to say, I'm going to do all these great things in the day, if you look at your phone and scroll social media, then your day's just been nudged in a direction you didn't want it. So if you want to protect what you're going to do in the day, you don't look at the news, always bad news, and social media first thing in the morning. And then the most important thing is during the day, you take regular periods of going offline. It's the water cooler moment. Go for a coffee, go for a meal, go for a talk with a friend. So you go offline, and that allows the brain and the body to recover. You get up and you move around. So all of a sudden you're pumping blood and oxygen back to your brain. There's some lovely research from Microsoft research, and they said that they did these back-to-back video calls, and they found that if you have back-to-back video calls, and we've all been there, that what happens is not only do you not prepare for the next video call properly, but you actually have a cumulative build-up of stress during the day. And then they introduced 10, 15-minute gaps between those video calls. And they found that actually the body then naturally recovers from that stress before going into the next video call. And actually you had time to prepare as well. So in Outlook, I think there's an option where you can actually put 10-minute, 15-minute gaps for that specific reason. So digital detox is those regular breaks. They're really, really important because like athletes, we can't work 100% all the time.
Yeah. What about those people that say willpower? I'm trying and I'm just like, how do you overcome the idea that willpower just is not going to be enough to push you through? So you want to take those mini breaks and you're like, I can't.
So I agree with them. Willpower is not enough. Willpower, to exercise choice, we have to consciously do it. And it takes a lot of resources. So what I suggest is change your environment. So the environment that we're in, so if we're sitting with our phone in our hands or our laptop, that environment will trigger lots and lots of automatic behaviors. There was some lovely research that suggested, I think 43% of our daily activities are done through unconscious habits. It's a shortcut. It's a mental shortcut. We don't have to think about them. They automatically happen. So one of our best friends is to change our environment. So in your diary, you can block off in advance periods of rest and recovery. And when you have those periods, you get the reminder up and you walk away. You change your environment. You go to a offline environment so you don't have those triggers. So the easiest thing we can all do is change our environment. And then we're not reliant on willpower. Then we have to create habits. Now, habits take a long time. All of our digital habits, we've done the same things every day for years. So we've got some strong habits there, and they're going to be really quite difficult to shift. So if we want to change our habits, I tend to say to people, well, if you want to run a marathon, on day one, you can't run a marathon. You haven't done the training. But if you train over a period of time, and you've got good health, sooner or later, you'll be able to run a marathon if you've done the right training. The time doesn't matter. It will be whatever time you can do it. And it's amazing how many people run the London Marathon, the New York, the Boston Marathon, and they've never run a marathon before, but they've all done the training. And the reason is that there was some research that suggested habits take on average 66 days, something like that. A lot longer based on complexity, or a little bit shorter. So to develop new habits takes time. So I use the analogy with running a marathon. So you mustn't expect instant results.
Yeah. I think when I think like maybe back in high school, they used to talk about 30 days to change a habit, but there's research with Dr. Caroline Leaf. She talks about around 60 days. Like you said, because of the complexity of one, forgetting, also because some of these habits are so long standing, some of these habits that we inherit from our family of origin, like so many variety of reasons. But she talks about 60 days. And so that allows you to give yourself room for grace. And so that like you said, it is a choice. You have to choose this consciousness of wanting to change. But yeah, changing your environment. I like that practical step, creating healthy habits. Awesome. Those are beautiful. So when you think about the high achievers struggle with burnout, how do they learn to honor this idea of rest versus work mode? They can reclaim more energy and time.
The first thing to say is if you think you are suffering from burnout, then please seek medical advice.
Absolutely.
Okay. So where my coaching comes in is for people that haven't got to that medical condition of burnout, or people that have had rehabilitation and have been signed off and now want to adopt a different lifestyle. So a coach isn't a medical profession. But if anyone listening feels that they have burnt out, then please seek medical assistance. So for everybody else, if you don't want to get there to that point, then you have to then think of yourself as a business athlete. You have to think of the way the mind and the body being connected, and you have to honor the thing that is you, the animal, the human being that is you. And you have to do that balance. Now, I love to use an analogy. The human brain is about 1 million times more power efficient than a supercomputer. And in fact, lots of other animals' brains are really amazing as well. But how does this biological brain achieve this? Well, universally, animals need sleep, they need nutrition, they need rest, they need a variety of things. Where does energy come from? Well, energy comes from your nutrition. Energy comes from exercise and building up those capabilities. The brain demands an awful lot of resources, an awful lot of oxygen. So a healthy heart pumps the blood into the brain and there's lots of oxygen. So you have to think of yourselves as athletes, really, because if you want to succeed, then you're not going to succeed. For example, if you haven't had sleep for a couple of days, if you're like me, I am absolutely wrecked. Totally wrecked. And the medical evidence is that so is everybody else. Without any sleep, we fall apart. But a lot of the other effects are more gradual. So we don't notice, perhaps for several years, that we haven't really exercised enough. We don't notice if our diet isn't as good as perhaps it ought to be for quite a few years. I know in the UK, and I'm guessing that the US is very similar, but the inactivity, this not moving about, accounts for the same number of deaths, which is 1 in 6, as smoking. But these are long-term things, and anything that's long-term, we tend not to worry about because, that can wait till tomorrow. But this idea that you are an athlete, and if you want to do your best for your work, for your family, for your friends, then you have to look after yourself. I did a swimming life-saving course. And the first thing they teach you is your safety first before you can help someone else. And the most difficult thing is if you have caring responsibilities, that can really drain you. And that's the area where you've really got to get that balance as well between the health of yourself and the other things, the other people, the work around you.
That's good, Colin. So prioritizing self-care.
Yes, because you can't help anyone else afterwards. If you're unable to perform at work, and let's say, and it's more serious in the US, if you lose your job in the US, I mean, that can happen instantly. All of a sudden, whatever plans you might have had have instantly changed. Now, we get a little bit more time in the UK when those sorts of things happen, but it's still the same thing. Plans change and you have to adapt to it. But what if you could start investing in yourself and your health? You could invest in growing your mind, growing your skills. And that's a part of your normal lifestyle by coming offline.
Yeah.
Then you're in a much better position. If you're online, it's easy to become a follower rather than a creator. It's very easy to become a follower when you go online.
That's powerful. So digital detox, as we start to wrap up, let's talk about maybe some of the benefits of digital detoxing, which you've kind of shared some of those through like self-care and of course the physical benefits. So what are some, I guess, maybe benefits when you think about digital detox, and maybe what are some mindset strategies? So you talked about the change in the environment, taking these, so I call them micro breaks. So, but yeah, what are some either benefits or additional mindset strategies as we wrap up?
So the mindset part of it is this mindset of an athlete. But it's also taking on board things that are counterintuitive. So if you there's a lot of pressure to be available for work 24/7. But actually, if you take a break from work and you do social activities with your family, perhaps sporting activities, your unconscious is still working on the problems of work. And how many times have you had a solution just pop into your mind when you're doing something else? So if you want to be better at work, you have to give yourself those breaks from being attached to being work. Now, it's counterintuitive and it's a tough one to talk to your boss about, but it's true. So the mindset of an athlete. Now, if you've got a mindset of an athlete, you then think, well, how can you feel more in control. So you have more agency. So instead of going online and being a follower and thinking, I can't do anything about anything that's going on, you have the mindset of actually, what is it I can do? So you can concentrate on being better at something, learning new skills, enjoying life. When you're with other people, how often do you see a family in a restaurant where everybody's on their phone? A group of friends in a bar, and they're all on their phones. Hey, hang on. You might be my best friend, but actually you're on your phone doing something else. I mean, how is that possible? So, and if you're with your partner and you're both on your phone, then you're not spending time together. So by digital detox, coming offline and paying attention, especially to other people and listening to them, which is quite hard to do, you actually end up with stronger personal relationships. And why is that important? In the US, it's not the Surgeon General, but it's the chief medical chap produced a report about a loneliness epidemic about 2 years ago. And he said, why is it that we're the most connected humans ever, and we've got a loneliness epidemic? And one of the reasons is because online communication, the messages, the emails, they're not instead of real communications. We've evolved to have connections with other people. We're social animals. It's part of our safety. It reduces stress. So online communications shouldn't be instead of, it should be as well as. So digital detox also strengthens that side of what we need as humans. So generally speaking, digital detox is a good egg. It's the same as walking in nature, good diet, a lot of sleep. But actually, by thinking of yourself as an athlete, you can actually tie it into the things that make a real difference to your income, to your future. And if anyone says, well, why are you taking a break? You tell them, say, I'm a business athlete. That's what we do.
Yes, yes, yes. So it's really retraining your mind to think
Yes.
of yourself in a different way. Yeah, yeah. I love that. The mindset of an athlete. So benefits of creativity, more agency, more control, more time. So more quality time with your loved one. So whether you're with your child, whether you're with your partner, with your friend, like more quality time because you're not like physically there, but disconnected because you're emotionally connecting to something else with your technology. So I love that. I love that. Awesome.
It's reported that the leaders of all the digital companies, global digital companies, particularly in the US, that's the lifestyles that they have.
Yeah. Work more, do more. Yeah. Stay always connected. Even on vacation. I'm like, that is so problematic for so
Mm.
many reasons. Like not having boundaries. Yeah. Yeah. And so I love the adapting the identity of a mindset and the mindset of a business athlete. Yeah, that's definitely a huge shift. But so many benefits to it.
Yes. And you feel good.
Yeah.
Once you feel fitter, because the mind and body are connected, the way you stand is different. When people interface with you, talk to you, they notice a difference. They're not consciously, but they notice because they're reading your face, your posture, the intonation of your words. You feel better and more confident because you know you can do things.
Yeah, so you show up differently. That's cool. That's cool. I love how you broke it down like digital detox. Because when I thought about it, I was like, well, maybe it's just, hey, turn your phone off. Like, yeah, that sounds hard sometimes. But I love the when you think about the change off, the exchange, turning my phone off or taking a break from a meeting, in between meetings, like all those different things. We got to have those meetings. We got to have the things. Like we need all these different things, but doing it with balance. I love the practical ways you shared
Yeah.
those. So Colin, how can people connect with you? I love how you emphasize if it's really true burnout, seek a medical
Yeah.
professional because there may be some heart issues we need to address, some blood pressure issues, some anxiety issues we need to address. Those medical things first and foremost. And then let's do the coaching. Let's do some strategies to help you to live longer and healthier. And so how can people connect with you? Like, what are some ways that you best serve? Is it leadership? Is it organizations? Like, how can people best connect with you and
So
best?
I always laugh when I say this because I'm saying digital detox, which is getting offline, but we all have to live and work online. So I'm saying the best way to contact me is the website. It's the digitaldetoxcoach.com. I also have a monthly Substack free article, and that looks at certain topics and then it gives a number of challenges so that if you do these challenges, then you're training yourself to be in more control of your devices. The January edition comes out on the 1st of January, which
Yay.
is 2 days' time. And in there's a 5-day digital reset challenge.
Mm,
So it's free. There's lots of challenges available on the website and also on the Substack. And then people can DM me, directly message me about issues or workshops or talks.
sweet. And you're on LinkedIn,
Yes.
Substack. Where else are you? Can we find you?
Well, there
And
is a
your website.
TEDx. There is a TEDx available on YouTube, which was done at the 2 years ago in Michigan, of all places, and it was done with my friend and colleague from Houston, and it was a two people TEDx, and that was "Are we losing our identity to technology?" And the great thing is that it was conceived before ChatGPT was launched. It's probably more relevant now than when we did it.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I will definitely put a link to that in the show notes as well. A link to your website, but also a link to the TEDx talk. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you again, Colin. Thank you so much for joining the Daryl podcast. Thank you so much for sharing more about digital detox. And thank you for giving us some practical ways that we can do this in our everyday lives. I definitely appreciate your time, your energy, your support for helping us to live healthy.
No, thank you ever so much. I've enjoyed our conversation today.
Awesome. All right, guys. Wishing you a beautiful day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe wherever you're hearing this episode. All right. Take care. Wishing you a fabulous day. Keep living, keep loving, and keep daring well. Take care, guys. God bless.
Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of the Daring Well podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to continue exploring the world of holistic wellness, be sure to subscribe to the Daring Well podcast so you never miss an episode filled with transformative conversations and actionable advice. Thank you again for being part of the Daring Well podcast community. Together, let's dare to live well in mind, body, and spirit.